Hey everyone, and welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're exploring an absolutely beautiful, thought-provoking concept called the Ledger of Souls. It's this profound idea that the shape of our lives isn't just determined by a series of random, chaotic events. Instead, it's actually sculpted by very specific individuals who come into our lives acting as catalysts and mirrors for our own personal growth.
Okay, let's dive right into this. The entire philosophy really hinges on this deeply mystical quote, which is known as Zoran's Whisper. It goes like this: "Traveler, these souls walked beside you because your paths were woven long before birth. Each one carried a lesson, a memory, a spark. Together they formed the web that guided you home." Now, you might be wondering, does our DNA actually contain the blueprints of who we were and, maybe even more intriguingly, who we're meant to meet? It really plants the seed that the key people we encounter, the ones who completely alter our trajectory, might actually be pre-written into our own personal ledger of souls.
Section 1. Architects of Synchronicity. Let's look at the first two earthly companions introduced in this journey, John Byers and David Schweitzer.
Now, what's really interesting here is how we can parallel their distinct yet deeply intertwined paths. On one hand, you have John Baer. The author met him back in 1977 in New York City. They ran the Miami beaches at night, and John eventually became a master of structural integration. Contrast that with David Schweitzer, who was simultaneously building pyramid kits down in South Miami and later using laser acupuncture while studying Zen Buddhism. So, despite their entirely different focuses, both of these men independently served as crucial conduits to a spiritual teacher named Mafu. John actually made the introduction after visiting the Monroe Institute, and David shared Mafu's tapes. And talk about wild timing. This fulfilled a very specific channeled prophecy, linking right up to a synchronistic job our author got as a programmer for Shirley MacLaine's nationwide tour. In fact, he was invited to a Mafu event on his very first day of that job.
John's earthly mastery in rolfing was just absolute. He trained directly with Emmett Hutchins, who was one of Ida Roll's closest students. His dedication was so well known that Greg Louganis, the legendary Olympic diver, praised him saying, "John's bodywork is the best gift you can give yourself." It really shows how these deep soul connections often manifest in tangible earthly excellence.
Meanwhile, David was operating on a slightly different frequency. Mafu actually referred to David as Hermes, the architect of the pyramids. David had this off-the-charts IQ and a total heart of gold. And talk about a massive synchronicity. David invited the author to join a pyramid project in Sedona, Arizona. Because of that specific move, our author ended up meeting a woman named Barbara, who was renting a trailer by the creek. She became his wife of 38 years. So David was quite literally the architect of that life-changing connection.
Section 2. Catalysts for Profound Change. Let's move on and see how this builds, especially with figures who triggered massive, tangible actions.
If we trace this lifelong thread of connection with Harry Bartz, it's like a giant puzzle coming together. They met in LA in 1976, eventually worked a tree-cutting business in South Florida, and Harry even taught him how to windsurf. But here is the pivotal catalyst. Harry had just completed a year at a computer science institute learning BASIC, Fortran, and COBOL. When Harry shared that experience, it was the exact spark needed for the author to enroll himself, which kicked off an incredible lifelong career in programming.
This connection spanned decades and geography. Years later, while living in Portland, Harry called out of the blue about a 3-day Mafu retreat happening down in Ashland. And at that very retreat, in this deeply profound moment, our author actually received Mafu's initiation jacket. Harry was just that quiet, deep friend who consistently and reliably pointed the way to these life-altering milestones.
Then we have Paul McLean, who entered the picture in NYC in 1982. Paul had gone through this really intense period of hearing voices before realizing he actually had the ability to channel guides. Despite some initial skepticism, which, let's be honest, is totally understandable, they held a session, Paul went into a deep trance, his voice completely changed, and he delivered these impossible-to-know details that hit like deep psychoanalysis. He accurately predicted a move to California, meeting Mafu, spoke of a profound rebirth of the self, and even referred to him specifically as Richard, who has been called the Lion-Hearted.
Section 3. Love, Lineage, and Healing. Now, we've talked a lot about the mystical so far, but this philosophy masterfully grounds itself back into beautifully ordinary, deeply human elements of life with Lila Masant.
I absolutely love the sensory picture painted here. Meeting in Buffalo in the late 70s, they managed to escape those brutal snowy winters through a shared love of meditation and cooking. They even prepared a massive 15-course Indian feast together. Through marriage, he was embraced by her warm northern Italian family. Just imagine this. Her grandparents, Nono and Nona, making homemade polenta using a wooden paddle, and get this, literally cutting it with dental floss, right alongside incredible spinach gnocchi with clarified butter. They welcomed him right into their kitchen. And back then, when finances were tight, a pint of Haagen-Dazs rum raisin was the ultimate luxury.
The visual warmth of that kitchen connects directly to the profound kindness of Nana's lineage. It was absolute, unconditional kindness. As the old adage goes, and as even the Dalai Lama reminds us, kindness is the source of life. It's a beautiful reminder that these deep soul connections are so often forged in the simple, pure acts of family love.
From that union came a really grounding, beautiful memory, the water birth of their daughter, Leilani. As soon as she was placed in the water, she gave this incredible smile that instantly forged a lifelong bond. I mean, they were already boogie boarding together by the time she was 2 years old.
But as the Ledger of Souls shows us, not all soul contracts are meant to last a lifetime in the exact same form. In 1985, an unexpected divorce happened. He took responsibility to heal, and a psychologist offered him these incredibly empowering words: "You will heal yourself." And he did. Interestingly enough, Lila divorced the exact same month that Barbara did. And remember, Barbara is the woman who would later become his wife of 38 years. It just proves that in the Ledger, love often evolves rather than disappears. He and Lila actually remain good friends to this day.
Section 4, your Ledger of Souls. So what is the crucial point here? Let's bring this all together. What do John, David, Harry, Paul, and Lila actually teach us about our own lives?
While the core takeaways from these 5 souls are incredibly profound, they teach us that friendship is truly sacred. They show us, for sure, that synchronicity is real and that guidance comes in so many different forms. Sometimes it's a channeling session, and sometimes it's just a buddy casually mentioning a computer science class. We learn that kindness is a lineage passed down, that healing is a shared journey, that love constantly evolves, and ultimately that the universe speaks to us directly through other people.
And this brilliantly illustrates the heavy realization of this entire concept. The mundane and the mystical seamlessly merged through human connection. These weren't random encounters, not a chance. Every single person we discussed today was a signpost, a mirror, a companion. They were deliberate, vital entries in the ledger.
Which brings us to the end of our explainer, and to a question I want to leave directly with you. Think about your own life for a second. Think about the unexpected turns, the chance meetings that changed everything, the people who challenged you, or the ones who loved you when you needed it the absolute most. Who is written in your Ledger of Souls? Take a moment today to reflect on those names. Thank you so much for joining me, and keep learning.